The ideology of the Republican Party of the United States is generally based on American conservatism, in contrast to the social liberalism of the Democrats. The party mainly consists of two groups: the moderates, sometimes described as establishment Republicans, and the members of the Tea Party, who have been described as populist or right wing of the party. The party also incorporates minor other factions, such as Libertarian Republicans, who advocate libertarian policies like gun ownership rights, and the evangelical Christian and conservative group, which is against abortion, homosexuality, pornography, and so on. However, let's have a look together at what the mainstream policies of the Republican Party are all about. Economic policies and free trade agreements. Republican Party leaders strongly believe that free markets and individual achievement are the primary factors behind economic prosperity of the United States. In this regard, they advocate in favour of relaxation of economics, fiscal conservatism, and eliminating government-run welfare programs in favour of private sector non-profits and encouraging personal responsibility overall. Some fiscal policies are still influenced by Reagan's economic policy, known as Reaganomics, a term popularised during the 1980s. This theory states that reduced income tax rates increase gross domestic product growth, and thereby generate the same or more revenue for the government from the smaller tax on the extra growth. The Republican Party doesn't support labour unions. Particularly during the Trump administration, Republicans have tried to renegotiate several free trade agreements, considered too much in favour of foreign countries. In this regard, the agreements have been renegotiated with the intent of bringing jobs back to the United States and reducing the trade deficit. The Trump administration position towards China is radically different. Seen as the main economic and trade enemy of the United States, President Trump has commenced a trade war in order to reduce the trade balance between the two countries. Fiscal policy and social services. As mentioned before, the entire fiscal policy of the Republican Party is still based on Reaganomics. Republicans strongly support tax cuts, and they consider the income tax system to be fundamentally inefficient. Republicans oppose the progressive tax rate system, which they believe is unfairly targeted at those who create jobs and wealth. The party also believes that private spending is usually more efficient than government spending. Republicans generally oppose the estate tax, which is a tax paid by a person who inherits money or property of a person who has died. Minimum wage. Most Republicans are against the increase of the minimum wage, believing that such a raise may hurt businesses by forcing them to cut jobs and services, promoting delocalization of American companies overseas, and rise of the prices of goods to compensate for decreased profits. Healthcare. Despite the political stance of the Republicans having softened over the last decade, the party had fiercely fought against the healthcare reforms of the former President Obama. Within the first few months of his mandate, President Trump has wiped out what was called Obamacare. The position of the Republican Party is pretty easy. Government will provide basic medical needs. If you can't afford the rest, or if you can't buy a medical insurance, it's not our problem. This is one of the topics where the Democrats and the Republicans are far apart. Education. Unlike the Democrats, which usually support free education for every American kid, as happens in most European countries and Canada, most Republicans support school choice through charter schools and school vouchers for private schools. In other words, Republicans push hard for supporting people in private educational facilities rather than managing state-owned schools. Several Republicans have openly criticised the performance of the public school system, and the teachers' unions, for example. The party has insisted on a system of greater accountability for public schools, highlighting a series of problems arising from public management. Environment. In terms of environmental policy, the Republicans are not really united. Historically, the Republican Party had addressed environmental protection seriously, creating several national parks nationwide. In addition, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Republican governor of California, implemented a series of very strict laws to protect the environment of his state. On the other side, former President George W. Bush and more recently Donald Trump opposed the Kyoto and Paris protocols respectively. Both agreements had the purpose of reducing CO2 emissions. The Republicans pushed for a development of market-based solutions to environmental problems, rather than prioritising environment protection regardless of their business impact. Republican representatives are also very keen in supporting the oil industry in sensitive areas such as the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Gun control. Since forever, the Republicans have supported the ownership right of guns. No matter what, guns, rifles and everything related must comply with laws under the Republican Party's policy. However, shockingly, a few members of the Republican Party stated that they would reconsider the right to carry large capacity magazines and bump stocks. In the aftermath of the 2017 Las Vegas shooting, several Republicans agreed in banning bump stocks, and so President Trump did. The death penalty. Capital punishment is another topic where the Republicans stand united in its favour. The current Trump administration has expressed on more than one occasion its desire to accelerate the executions in order to empty out death rows of American prisons. Republicans always advocate in favour of the death penalty, arguing with prosecutors and judges who oppose such punishment. It's curious to mention that in 2016 a majority of Americans were opposed to the death penalty, and this was the first time ever. Immigration. Republicans are divided in relation to illegal immigration. A part of the Republicans are in favour of a workers' migration, while the so-called populists take a stronger stance against immigration, particularly from Central and Southern America. Despite in 2006 the Republican Party supported the Democratic Party in making it easier for immigrants to become American citizens, nowadays it seems that most Republicans are against immigration. Equal opportunity and LGBT rights. Like the Democratic Party, the Republican Party also advocates for equality of opportunity for all Americans, regardless of sex, age, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity or religion. However, mainly due to the evangelical Christian conservative component, the Republican Party platform, as of 2016, is officially opposed to same-sex marriage and other LGBT rights. It should be noted that, starting from 2019, a majority of Republican voters are in favour of same-sex marriage. Therefore, we believe that soon also the party policy may change. For those who are interested in knowing more about the Republican Party policies, we link in the description the 2016 Republican Party platform, which is the document summarising the latest position of the Republicans in relation to several topics. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please do feel free to comment below. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.